guys, my name is Chelsea and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, we're talking about books that I'm thankful for. So, since I normally post on Mondays and Thursdays, and obviously Thanksgiving is on a Thursday, I don't know if I've ever actually done a video like this, but I thought I should do books that I'm thankful for because, can we see here, books are a very big part of my life, and there are certain books that I just think about and think about why I read them and how they helped me basically. And so yeah, I am thankful for some books. I have a shortish list here, so hopefully we're not going to ramble on too long. And so the first one is going to be the Lord of the Rings series by J.R.R. Tolkien. I read the first one sometime after the first movie came out. The first movie came out when I was in 6th grade. So between 6th and 7th grade, most likely, I read this. And then I also read books 2 and 3 back to back. And then I ended up watching the movies. I know I probably read these in like 7th or 8th grade at the latest, because I do fully remember talking to my government teacher in 8th grade about the movie and how it won Oscars. And that happened in 2003 when I was in 8th grade. So I read these sometime in that space of time, and I don't know how much I can really say about this except for the fact that I love these. I am so thankful that I read these at a time when I was impressionable, in the fact that, like, these are not necessarily my favorite genre right now. Classic fantasy with long stories, military battles in some parts of it, lots of explanation, it drags on a little bit, but I have such a soft spot for this series. I've actually read these multiple times, and I really need to do a reread. I need to get better about rereading some books because they are a big part of my life and sort of my identity. This is just how it is. Lord of the Rings has always been one of my favorite books and movie series. I actually used to watch the movies, like the extended edition movies, and marathon them every New Year's Eve. Mostly we did that because it was my brother's birthday and he also liked to do that with me, but also because we're staying up until like midnight, sometimes later on those days. I think we tried doing that 2 years ago, but I was actually pregnant with Presley, and so we made it out of 2 out of the 3 movies, and then I had to go to bed. We just didn't quite make it. And I've been meaning to reread these for a while. I don't know if you guys can tell in here. Look at how freaking broken and trashed these spines are. Like, this is how you know I love these. Also, the whole freaking shelf dedicated to it. But yes, this was one of the easiest choices to pick for a video like this. I don't have a very, like, specific reason for it, but I am so thankful that I read these books, and I just absolutely love them with my whole being. Next, I wanted to talk about some books that I read for the first time, and I specifically know that I read them for the first time at the end of 2013. I was going through a breakup with a long-term boyfriend, over 4.5 years I think it was, and I marathoned for the first time ever some mangas. I have a very soft spot for all of the mangas that I ended up reading at that time, but it's also the first time I ever actually read a manga. I think I had seen a little bit of anime before that, but I had never actually picked any of this kind of stuff up. And the ones that I specifically wanted to talk about and mention, just because I read everything of them, is going to be Ouran High School Host Club by Bisco Hattori. This is an 18-volume manga series about our main character, Haruhi, who is actually a girl but dressing up as a guy in a school and ends up having to sort of join the host club, which is a group of guys who entertain girls, like having tea dates and that kind of stuff, in order to pay them back. She is a commoner in a very rich school. She's there on scholarship, and so yes, this is a reverse harem manga that I just absolutely love. I think this was also my first anime that I watched, so I obviously needed to read this, and I love it. Again, you can see from behind me. I also read the entirety of Fruits Basket. This is by Natsuki Takaya. This is the collector's edition that has 2 books per volume, but otherwise this is a 24 normal volume series, 12 volumes of the collector's edition series that follows our main character of Toru, who after a tragic family accident ends up living on her own in a tent, and then a couple guys from school find her there. She learns about their family secret, which is that there are certain members of their family turn into Chinese zodiac animals if they are hugged by the opposite sex. Again, this is another manga, obviously, that really got me through a rough time, and I just have so much nostalgia for the series. The art style on this one, not my favorite art style ever, but it's not horrible. It's definitely a product of its time, but I love it. I own all of the series now, and I do definitely think I need to reread these at some point. And then we also have Ghost Hunt. This is by Shiho Inada and Fuyumi Ono. This is actually out of print. I am so sad about this, but this is another one that I absolutely love. I've watched all the animes for these ones too, and this follows our main character of Mai, who ends up working for a ghost hunting company in Japan, and ghosty adventures like that ensue. Some of this stuff is really creepy. There's also friends and family aspects that I just absolutely love. Like I mentioned, this is actually out of print, so I spent some good money trying to get some of these. And there's actually 12 volumes in this series. However, only 11 volumes ever got translated into English. So even though I really don't condone going on free manga sites and looking for fan translations, there was no other way for me to finish out this manga series, and so I did end up reading the 12th volume on a site like that, but I own all 11 of the ones in English. The next book series that I wanted to talk about is going to be Percy Jackson and the Olympians by Riordan. This, I want to thank, not just for me, even though I do love this series. I actually found this as a 20-something-year-old adult, and I still really enjoyed them. It has great Greek mythological elements brought into the modern day. However, I also taught at a school as a Title I teacher for a couple years a while ago, and this is required reading in the 6th grade at that school district. I think other school districts do it as well, but at least the ones that I know about. And let me tell you, this is one of those books which is a little bit rare for being required reading, but I had seen so many kids actually realize they liked reading because of this book. A lot of required reading stuff, and I know from personal experience, are things that you wouldn't necessarily want to pick up on your own. You have to analyze them, all this kind of stuff, and sometimes that can really kill a love of reading in some kids. And the fact that the majority of the kids from any of those classes that ended up having to read this fell back in love with reading or realized they could enjoy reading because of this book and the characters and the friendships and the Greek mythological elements. You can't pass up how much good this book has done, and let me tell you, it definitely has done some good in those kids' lives that I know. And then finally, I just wanted to quickly pick out some books that have made my 2020 quarantine time better. This is by no means an extensive list because I have read a lot of good books this year, but I definitely wanted to pick out books that I know for a fact I read after we had started staying home a whole lot more and social distancing from everybody, and so I have 3 here that I just really had to mention. The first is The Space Between Worlds by Micaiah Johnson. This is an adult sci-fi that deals with multiverses. Our main character of Kara works for a company that lets her travel the multiverse, and the reason she is able to do this is because she is actually dead in the other universes that she travels to. You are not allowed to travel to a place that already has one of you. It's just not possible. I really enjoyed this one. Our main character is bi and black, and we have a sapphic romance. There is a lot of darkness in here as well, and it is a standalone, sort of short sci-fi for an adult book like this, but I absolutely loved the writing style as well. It was so poetic, and I really want to reread this one. I don't know if I'm going to get to it again this year, but definitely has made quarantine better. Then we also have I'll Be the One by Lila Lee. This is a young adult contemporary story about our main character of Sky, who is plus sized, and she is going into a K-pop competition to sing and dance. There is fat-phobic stuff in here that she has to deal with from the judges and her mother, but she is also a bi main character, and I absolutely loved her and this story. I cried a few times, but it is ultimately uplifting and I loved it. And then finally we have Cemetery Boys by Aidan Thomas. Again, I really enjoyed this one. I actually read this one recently. All of these books for quarantine are 5 out of 5 stars, but this one is by Aidan Thomas, and this one follows our main character of Yadriel, who is Latinx and trans, and he is basically trying to prove himself as a brujo in his community when a tragedy strikes in his family, and he wants to go figure out exactly what happened for himself. He tries to raise the ghost of the person that the tragedy happened to, but instead of getting a family member, he gets Julian. And the story goes from there. Again, so beautiful, so well written. I loved the emotional character development that we had here, the relationships with friends and family, and potentially some romance elements. This, again, does have some transphobic, misgendering, dead naming things in it, so it definitely could be triggering. All 3 of these books actually have elements that could be triggering, but again, I cried. It was so well done. I loved it. And then that's everything from me. This is just, again, a video to give some shout out love to these books that have made differences in mine or others' lives, and I absolutely love them. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up to let me know. Leave me a comment down below on some books that you are thankful for. Subscribe to this channel if you would like to see more videos. I do have videos up Mondays, Thursdays, and sometimes Saturdays, so I will see you then. Bye!